What's good, everyone, and welcome back to another reaction video. Today we're reacting to Explain Fate, a timeline that hates direct sequels. This was suggested by and I am sorry, I'm gonna pronounce this name wrong because I know for sure I am, because I'm not too sure how to pronounce it. Habinyan Hab Hab Habrian 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 42069. If I said it wrong, I am sorry. I'm really trying on this name thing. I just do not know how to pronounce it. So I'm sorry if I got your name wrong. But thank you for sending a video to help explain the whole Fate timeline thing. Or just explain Fate in general, because yeah, I didn't know if it was a good starting point to try to explain the whole Fate series, the last one, the whole 30-minute thing. I didn't know. Now I have a general idea, and by general I mean kind of an idea of what's going on here. But I guess I'm gonna probably have a better explanation this time around, or more of an in-depth one, I guess. I don't know which one what's happening here. All I know is I'm going to be told the Fate timeline probably in the bluntest way possible that no one can mess this up. If I mess this up, I am sorry, Fate fans. So yeah. With this said, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the like button down below, hit the subscribe button to support the channel, support the content provided, and so on and so forth. Hit the notification button, be notified immediately when a new video comes out. And if you have any videos you would like to recommend, leave it down in the comment section below. Or in the community tab, there was a thing for Halloween. I was hoping there was going to be Halloween videos. I guess not. But they're not bad either, so yeah. At least I'm going to have some videos to react to. So with this said, hope you all enjoy this video. And before I forget, the link to this video will be down in the description below. So if you want to see this video yourself, it's going to be down there in the description. I'm serious, it's going to be there. It really is. So yeah, with all this said, let's start this video, shall we?
Welcome to A Line Through Time, where I take the time to look through your favourite franchises
Okay.
and work out how it all lines up. And let me tell you, this one took quite a lot of time to work out how it all lines up. The Fate franchise has a reputation for being very complicated and difficult to get into, so I'm going to briefly explain how each entry fits into the broader Nasuverse as simply as I can. I can guarantee right now that there'll be something here that some Fate superfan will notice I've missed or gotten wrong, but you'll see why this is more the fault of the franchise and how it's structured than anything I've done. I'm going to approach this one differently from the usual, and I don't just mean having a vertical timeline instead of a horizontal. Instead of discussing each entry in release order, I'm just going to build this timeline by subsequence sub-series with less specifics than usual. Some are entirely standalone universes with shared magic systems and the like, and some timelines may technically deviate earlier, like with the creation of the Moonsail and Fatextella, but as far as the actual relevant story goes, it shares events with the main timeline until much later. So let's get into the main timeline first. The franchise started with the 2004 visual
I think I saw a
novel Fate
Nazi.
Stay Night, which takes place in 2004 and centers on the 5th Holy Grail War held in Fuyuki City. In this conflict, 7 mages summon a servant, a legendary figure from history or mythology, each assigned a class based on their abilities and weapons, and the 7 duos fight in a battle royale for a wish on the Holy Grail. Stay Night has 3 story routes: Fate, Unlimited Blade Works, and Heaven's Feel. None of these routes are
Yeah, that was already
sequels.
explained before,
Before
so,
we
but
discuss said sequels,
I guess
we need
those
to
are
look
good.
back. Stay Night centers on the 5th Holy Grail War. The prior 4 are important to establish for this timeline. The prior 4 took place around 1800, in the 1860s, in 1939, and in 1994. The 4th Grail War is depicted in Fate Zero. Nasu says it's technically a separate timeline that's just really similar, but I reject this notion for reasons that will become apparent later. Zero also had a short story prequel named Fate Zero Another Story Heart of Freaks, which is estimated to be set in 1978, and will cap off the central spine of the
1978.
timeline with Garden of Avalon, a story set in the
Weapon
Arthurian
78.
era since it's relevant to Stay Night. Stay Night's Archer is actually summoned from the future, his backstory being set in another timeline where Stay Night happens without him being summoned, with his summoning creating a separate timeline in which the version we see takes place. Fate Unlimited Codes is a fighting game version of Stay Night's events with its own numerous
confusing.
endings. Fate School Life is a gag manga about some side characters set alongside a version of Stay Night that apparently is most similar to Heaven's Feel. Fate Hollow Ataraxia is a sequel to Stay Night that's very vague about what specifically went down in Stay Night, but due to the weird events occurring here, elements of all of them are apparently present. It's hard to explain since there's no official English version of either it or its predecessor, nor is there any anime adaptation yet. Another sequel is Today's Menu for Emiya Family, a cooking-focused spin-off set in a timeline where pretty much everyone survives the Grail War and become friends who come over to eat with Shiro and friends. You see how they like to make up new versions of prior stories to
Okay, I need to read this before it goes any further, because I think I'm gonna lose count of everything. So, okay, so this is the whole timeline thing. The school life is like the same time as this. Same as this. But this is the when I'm really okay. So we got Fate, Unlimited Blade Works, and Heaven's Feel. So that would be so. Huh. Saber fights Archer. Shiro stops Saber. Shiro walks Sakura home. I don't get it. And this is the one where apparently Rin does something and it causes all 3 timelines to mix into one. And this one right here is no one dies and okay, got it.
Sequels to rather than the actual story
All
that
right.
is told. Spinning off from Zero are Lord Elmaloy II's case files,
Who
and its
is-
sequel, The Adventures of Lord Elmaloy II, which follow one of the survivors of the 4th Grail War. Case Files takes place earlier in 2004 than Stay Night, while Adventures is set in 2007 after another
Who's the
made-up version
girl?
of Stay Night that features elements of all 3 routes. It may even be the same one as Hollow Ataraxia for all I or anyone else knows. Somewhere along the way, it was established that another follow-up event involving Elmaloy, the Grail Dismantling War, takes place in 2014. Fate Strange Fake is a weird one. It's supposedly part of the post-Stay Night branch I just discussed, but also features lore elements from another Nasu work, Tsukihime, which normal Fate worlds don't, but it's supposedly set in 2009 in this timeline. But on the subject of other Nasu works, Kara no Kyokai, The Garden of Sinners, is also set in this timeline, mostly spanning from 1995 to 1999. The final Kara
Garden
no Kyokai
of
story,
Sinners?
Future Gospel, takes place in 2010. I'll discuss other non-Fate works later. For now, we have the core timeline laid out, so we can get into the branches. First is a simple one. During the 3rd Grail War, another
Oh,
aspect
yeah.
is possible. Rather than Angra Mainyu being summoned and corrupting the Grail, Amakusa Shido Tokisada is summoned. Additionally, the Grail is removed from Fuyuki by the German military and Darnik Preston Yigda Millennia, and you thought Death Note had the dumbest Western names in anime, which prevents the 4th and 5th Wars from occurring, and instead the Great Holy Grail War takes place in Romania in 2004.
That
This
process.
is Fate Apocrypha. This timeline then continues into the short story Fate.
It's the same year at the same time, but in Europe. Alright.
Apocrypha Side of Survivor, which follows a
Let's go with that.
with other survivors of the last war, and then the recent light novel series Fate
So,
Lost Enherja, which is set in 2014. Another timeline spinning off between the 3rd and 4th wars is the most frustrating to grasp and is likely where the most errors will be. In the
oh my gosh, what happened?
Curse that causes the world's mana to start drying up.
Fate
This leads to the
Extra?
Moonsail Grail War in 2032, as seen in the dungeon crawler Fate Extra. Extra gives protagonist Hakuno the choice of Nero, Nameless, and Tamamo as a servant. The game's sequel, Fate Extra CCC, spins off during Extra thanks to the Sakura AI falling in love with Hakuno and getting reprogrammed. Parallel to CCC is Fate Extra CCC Foxtail, a manga reimagining of CCC that utilizes unused ideas, like having all 5 Sakura AIs be unleashed instead of just 2. Next comes Fatextella, a Muso-like that also follows Extra in an alternate route that is similar but not the same, but the specific differences are only vaguely explained in a goddamn blog post by Nasu. Extella's sequel, Fatextella Link, is a direct sequel to Extella, only it's not, because despite setting up the return of Extella's main antagonist for a sequel, Link insists that the main cast never even met him, despite Extella's convoluted multi-timeline plot that he instigated.
So, all these things are basically the moon thing, where... Okay. So, got it. Moon problem, got it. With the choice of multiple servants you can pick? That was a gamble. Never mind.
Having still taken place
Different timeline, different thing.
The presence of a young Altera. Fate Extella is a manga where Hakuno being split into 3 and Extella also turns them into a baby. And finally, the anime Fate Extra Last Encore starts out seeming like a loose adaptation of Extra, but is actually a sequel to a version of Extra where Hakuno and Nero lose to the final boss, leading to a lengthy cycle that concludes in 3020, instead of just being the story Extella follows on from or something. You know, something fucking normal for once. And here I thought Drakengard and Nier had the most rock stupid...
Oh, so failure means going into a time loop, where the process of this battle will repeat over and over again until the cycle's broken. Jeez, that's harsh.
Take on a branching narrative that doesn't actually connect the entries. It all just makes me want to Lancer myself. Fortunately, the 3rd and final branch is much simpler, and it's the Magical Girl spin-off. Fate's Kaleid liner Prisma Elia branches off with Elia 8 years later for whatever reason, and then her parents prevent the 4th Grail War from happening, leading to the Grail system of a parallel universe invading that world, and Magical Girl shenanigans ensue. Each subsequent Prisma Elia series just follows on directly, and it's a sad state of affairs when the Magical Girl spin-off where 10-year-old girls suggestively snog each other is the one with the most normal narrative structure. Prisma Ilia Oath Under Snow is a prequel movie set in the aforementioned alternate timeline prior to the series. This reality is just arbitrarily different from the main timeline with little shared history, so we might as well discuss the rest of that type of alternate timeline. First up is Fate's Prototype, which is basically a fake...
I'm nodding my head in agreement to what's being said.
Such as King Arthur not being gender swapped and the story centering on the Second Tokyo Grail War in 1999. The first occurs in 1991 and is depicted in the light novel Fate...
Everything else... understandable and all that, but and I would probably watch it all or play it all, but the magical girl thing, no, I don't actually see any appeal to that. Considering last video mentioned and showed some creepy stuff that I don't even want to see, so plus it kind of seems more like filler a series that's more based on filler. I might be wrong, but I don't know.
Prototype Fragments of Sky Silver. Another light novel, Fate Labyrinth, is apparently set in a parallel universe that one of the prototype characters travels into during the events of Sky Silver. Fate Grand Order is a gacha game that pulls characters from various different timelines and universes, but it's not presented as a crossover of those versions of those characters, I think. It's just entering its fourth arc now, those four being Observer on Timeless Temple, 2015 to 2016,
Finish that.
Remnant, 2017, Cosmos
I'm on
and the
that.
Lost Belt, 2018, and Ordeal Call. Also, the Fuyuki Grail War only occurs once in 2004.
I am almost done with the
Fate Grand
prequel.
Order Arcade is its own version of the first arc.
Yeah, anyway, I'm almost done with Epic Remnant. I've been trying to read the story after the previous video. I'm in Salem right now, so yeah. So the next thing I'm dealing with is Cosmos and the Lost Belt. Huh. And then there's Ordeal Call. Not sure what that's about, but
Fate
okay.
Grand Carnival is set in 2020, so I guess it's at the end. Fate Type Redline is a manga adapted from a gag manga, Fate Cohort Ace, but now with a more serious tone. The story in Redline sees a young man sent back in time from 2020 to 1945, where he becomes embroiled in the Fourth Imperial Capital Grail War. The third occurred in 1943. Fate is set in 2025. What? This follows the end of World War III in 2011, which started as a result of many Grail Wars starting all at once around the world. The final Fate-ish works
sounds confusing,
are
but okay.
set in the year 3000, and Notes, which occurs
year
sometime
3000.
later. I know little about these, but they apparently are connected to the Fate side of the Nasuverse. And what is the other side of the Nasuverse? Tsukihime, a visual novel that predates Fate and was Type Moon's original big success. The distinction between the two sides of the Nasuverse canon-wise revolves around the shared character of Zelrech in 300
Zelrech.
In Tsukihime worlds, he becomes an immortal vampire. In Fate, he finds other means to gain immortality since these vampires don't exist there or something. Tsukihime is set in 1999 and has its own series of routes that are ignored.
Why would you want to be immortal?
The first sequel is Kagetsu Toya, set a year later, which is vague about the events that occurred. Presumably, this is set in the timeline that leads to Melty Blood, the fighting game spin-off series played in bathroom sinks. The setup is that this follows the scrapped Satsuki route from Tsukihime, which gave the writers more freedom with what events to call back to. Melty Blood React, and Melty Blood Actress Again are also set in 2000. Melty Blood X is a manga set sometime later. Melty Blood Back Alley Nightmare is a manga that ties into Grand Order and Extra, established as alternate realities to Melty Blood. And the final story in the classic Tsukihime timeline is Clock Tower 2015, which only matters because it relates to a shared event with Grand Order, where a particular character lancering himself here prevents the events of Grand Order from taking place or something. Now, I said classic Tsukihime timeline a moment ago.
Is that Lev?
The current Big Type Moon projects is a full-on remake of the original game. The remake is set in 2014 and changes certain aspects of the original plot. Currently, only 2 of the original routes have been remade. Alongside this release came Melty Blood Type Lumina, which is not a sequel, but an alternate timeline prequel where basically the events of the remake begin a couple of weeks earlier, and aspects of both the remake routes and the originals are drawn on. There's also the visual novel Witch on the Holy Night, which I think is the only Type Moon VN to get an official English release. It takes place before Tsukihime from 1989 to 1990, and I believe it's still canon to the remake timelines, but possibly moved around. Despite being presented as being so separate, Fate and Tsukihime have crossed over a few times. While Artoria and Mash's presence in Type Lumina is explicitly a cross-dimensional thing, Arcuate's appearances in Fate Extra and Grand Order are not explained the same way to my knowledge. There's also Carnival Phantasm, which features the main cast of Stay Night and Tsukihime in a comedy setting with a bit of crossover. And there's Hana no Miyako, which uses the names and likenesses of characters from both, but is really just its own thing. We also have the upcoming action RPG,
that's strange, but alright,
which follows the adopted son of Miyamoto Musashi in a conflict that includes his father's female counterparts. Because Fate. For now, we'll assume it's standalone. But it would be really cool if it was a prequel to Type Redline. There's also a remake of Fate Extra in the works, but we'll have to wait and see if it's just a remake, another canonical alternate version of the events, or one of those remakes that are actually sequels. And with that, I believe we have now covered every notable story in the Nasuverse. I'm sure there are some random 14-page short stories released only with Japanese guidebooks that barely relate to the timelines they're part of, and I could count the various adaptations as separate
Okay.
timelines, and I could delve deeper, maybe discuss the 4 unique timelines seen in Extella, for instance. But I want to make
That
this
is a
simple for newcomers
freaking
so they
big
don't have to
timeline.
spend weeks researching and consulting with Fate
Hmm.
fans like I did. And also, I just don't want to delve any deeper into this than I already have. Fate is hard
Yeah,
for people to get
understandable.
into because Type Moon made it that way. There's no need for every single part of the extra series to be a separate timeline, especially when that's the series that explained how the universe can only contain so many timelines, and so it prunes redundant and dead-end timelines to save space. If you liked this video, why not subscribe and support me on Patreon like these fine people here? If not, then make sure to share it with your enemies so they can suffer along with you. Today's recommended playlist is Type Moon Lore by Otaku Daikun. It's a series of videos summarising Nasuverse plots, including the Japan exclusive ones and the ones that should have remained Japan exclusive, and explaining concepts like the Hero of Justice.
Meh, I can see it. So, this is the timeline, huh? It looks freaking complicated. But I guess that is the point. It's not really a simple explanation. And I don't mean to say that this whole franchise is complicated. I mean, this made it bluntly clear about that. It's not really complicated, but I mean, the concept of different timelines is a bit complicated because they all involve different histories, different facts, different details, and all that. And I guess the best way to go about it is not really focusing on the main full backstory. Like, I don't know how to say it. It's like we understand that these characters did something different in this timeline. There's different events that happen in this time. You know what? I just don't know how to say it. I know what to say. I just don't know how to phrase it. But yeah, I understand it a bit better now. Though it is a bit strange to hear that Grand Order doesn't really involve the servants from all these different timelines. I think? I don't know. That one sounds more like a maybe, kind of, probably situation. It's just a bit confusing there. Alright. So, Natsu's other work, this Blood series, is connected to Fate, and Fate's connected to it, but in certain conditions, certain timelines, certain events, something along those lines. Like I said, it's bad, but it's pretty interesting. Not in a bad way, but it's really cool. So, yeah. This was a better explanation than... Well, a bit of a better explanation, since it seems like it's going into a more blunt, clear path. I'm curious about that one girl from that Lord novel. I can't remember the name on the top of my head. I swear. Waver. Yes, Waver. The guy that I'm remembering from the last video, the guy was named Waver. But that girl he's with, why does she look like, her Artoria? That's kind of weird. Why would someone with her that looks exactly like her appear in modern time? Wait, does anyone from any of the wars know about her? I mean, besides Waver, does anyone else know about her? Does she know about her? This is weird, okay? The concept of this character, I don't even know who they are. And yet, they... You know what? Nero looks like Artoria, and a bunch of other characters look like Artoria. I'm not going to judge, I'm not going to question it, it's probably just another coincidence. I feel like if I try to figure out every single piece with guesses and assumptions without even knowing all the details to the situation, I'm just going to mentally exhaust myself. So yeah, hope you all enjoy this video. I gotta admit, it's really interesting, but I'm definitely not going to the Prism Ilia, I guess it's called. Yeah, I'm not going to that. It just doesn't appeal to me. Because, I don't know, it seems, from the way it's acting and behaving from all the scenes I'm seeing, it's, from, well, all the stuff I've seen from this video and the previous one, it's more, filler looking slash inappropriate, if I'm right. I mean, I don't know. I don't know this kind of thing. But with all the stuff I've seen, it's not really making anything to disprove me wrong. I don't. Okay, it's. I'm not really considering watching Prism Ilia. So yeah. Hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the like button down below, hit the subscribe button, support the channel, support the content provided, and so on and so forth. Hit the notification button, be notified immediately when the video comes out. And tell me what you think of. Tell me if you have anything to help me more in this Fate series thing. I really do want to get into this series. It's just I'm thinking it's maybe Fate Zero or regular Fate Stay Night. One of those two seems like one of the better options to start with. I don't know. Tell me in the comment section below. I would love to hear your opinion. And if what I said about Prism Ilia is right or wrong, leave it down in there too. I don't know. It just seems something more like a filler kind of series. In all honesty. So yeah. And yeah, with all this said, I hope you all enjoy, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!